Hey everybody, this is Travis. Thanks for joining me again. I got a lot of requests for kind of a side by side and in hand uh, views and comparisons of some of the Reate knives. Um, so I just thought, I'd make a video on it, give a couple more side by sides, and it'll be a small reviews mixed in and some in-hand shots possibly. K1, K2, K3, K4 just sitting there now. So I'll just show some of the knives that I have here on hand, kind of side by sides and maybe size comparisons if, a lot of people have asked. So, I'm going to start out with the K1. To me, the Reate knives have just been getting better and better over time, and now everything just starts with the K series to me. The K1 in particular, one of my favorites, and we're just going to start right there. It is about a 3.8-inch blade, and it's long and lean, although it does have a robust spine there. The spine is crowned, so it's very soft on your fingers. The other thing about the K1, it's super lightweight. The K1 does come in a variety of colors, and to me, it always reminds me of the Spyderco Military. Long and lean, and it's a great slicer. So you can see here's the first maybe comparison shot. You can see the Spyderco Military is a lot bigger in the handle. I'm not sure why it reminds me so much of it. Maybe because some of my favorite knives, well, they're both great slicers. So not the best comparison, but anyway, a little comparison shot, because they do really remind me of each other, how they're so long and lean and such great slicers. As a comparison, the K2, it's just about the same size. Your tip comes out in a different spot in relation to your hand when you're holding it, when you're using it. One good thing about the K2 is there is a lot of handle, especially on the bottom. The top's a little shorter, but that's nice. It has that back spacer where you can hold on the back. All these flippers give you a pretty good finger guard right there. But you can see the finger guard's a little bigger on the K1 with the cutout. The handle shape on that K2 does give you a lot of handle on the bottom. And like I was saying, when you're using it, of course, on a Tonto, the tip is up a little higher. As opposed to the K1, the tip does come out. It's a drop point with just that Skinner addition on the top there, which I've learned is really nice in use. The Skinner tip has been really, I've been using it a lot lately. To compare also, could bring in the K3. Just to finish up with the K2, I do have another K2 here. The K2 does remind me, once again, of the Spyderco Tonto. I mean, it reminds me of it because of those are the Tontos that I have, my favorite ones, I should say. I do have a couple other Tontos, and probably the Liangma Warrior 2 looks closer to this than the Spider Column Tonto. Well, I don't have one here, so I can't show it. Um, but yeah, a little comparison just in, you can see in hand. This one comes down a little bit and this one stays up. The Lum Tonto tip is a little lower. But yeah, you have the hump, which could be good or bad just depending on how you're using the knife. On the K2, you have a little bit more of a finger guard here. Yeah, you don't have the thumb ramp, which could be nice, or you might miss it. Let's get the Reate comparison going. A lot of knives here. So yeah, there's the 1, 2, and the 3. The closest knife always looks bigger. I'll switch them up a little bit. Now we're moving on to the 3, and you can see, well, the 3 does come in two different, it comes in a double grind Tonto, and it comes in this drop point. You can see the 3 is quite a bit different. Has the hump back. The lock bar sticks down a little bit, makes it easier to get to. Does have that cutout there, and the back spacer sticks up a little bit. Has the raised pivot instead of being so flat. All these knives are very similar in blade length. They're all about 3.8 inches, yet, they are different in hand. One nice thing about the K3, has the most jimping of any Reate that I've seen yet. Has a nice flat, wide spot on top to just lay your thumb. And once again has that drop point, but kind of a harpoon tip, Skinner addition on top, which I've actually learned to really like. You can see another comparison. We'll bring in a K4, which I guess some people have thought is a little shorter, a little smaller. And maybe, it might be. But it's not much. Not much at all, really. It could be a hair shorter. I think why it seems shorter is because it's just a little fatter. You could see, I could feel for sure it's a little fatter in hand. It's a little wider, and it's a little wider this way, yet it's more rounded. I think even the clip is a little bit rounded. So it does feel, the K4 feels more substantial in hand, I guess I'd say. Just, it fills your hand up a little more, as opposed to maybe the K2. K2 feels lighter, but it might feel a little more skinny, I guess, in hand. Just not quite as round or as large. So I really don't think the K4 is much shorter. I think it's just a little fatter. The K4, once again, comes in a variety of colors, and that's one great thing about Reate is they do give you some choices. Another thing about the K4 is I does remind me of the Mannix. And why does it remind me of the Mannix? Oh, probably because they're some of my favorite knives. I mean, truly, the Mannix is a little smaller. I think they both have a great finger guard, and they're not both real nice to use. So possibly that's why it reminds me of the Spyderco Mannix. But obviously, yes, the Mannix is a smaller knife compared to what you're getting with the K4. That K4 was that, I don't know what they call it, that drop point Tonto with the recurve. No, also the K4 does remind me just the way it feels in hand when you're using it, the way it flies out, the heft of it. It does remind me really of the Torrent. The Torrent, of course, is out of production now, and really, there's not really many around. And once again, I don't know why, the non-harpoon tip is going to remind me of a harpoon tip. I think it's just the way it feels when you're using it, the way it flies out, the solid feel of it. This is this Torrent is the first one's made with the stone washed and only a few cutouts inside. And it's a pretty strong detent when it just flies out. It feels so solid. I've had a couple of people tell me the Torrent is the most solid knife they own. Even $2,000 knives or whatever they didn't feel were as well made as the Torrent. And I kind of agreed with them. And yet as I was playing around with my knives, I was thinking, well, yeah, the Torrent feels super solid, but really the K4 feels better. Well, I did say that. So, yeah, the K4 might feel just a little more smooth and a little more solid, if that's even possible. Obviously, they have also different blade stop, to where this has the stop pin and this has the pin through the blade. I don't know which one is truly more stable. It seems like this one, although I prefer the look of the stop pin. They're both just, I've never felt blade play in a Reate knife. Not one. Well, one time when there was a screw loose, and we tightened the screw up, and there was no blade play. So I've never actually felt blade play in a Reate knife. So Reate came out with some new knives lately, the Horizon, Mini Horizon. And people were wondering, what's the size of the Mini Horizon with comparison to the Horizon. This is a Horizon C, and like I said, I'll just show, the knives I do have here in person. Do what I can. Get some of these knives out of the way. If I could get all these lined up in one shot, maybe. You can kind of see a good comparison there, as the closest knife always looks the biggest. Yet the Horizon C is also the furthest knife. They call it the Mini Horizon, and it kind of makes it more of like a regular size knife. If it was a Spyderco Mini, it'd be tiny. Spyderco mini knives are little tiny knives. So this is a Reate Mini. It's over 3 inches, just under 3.5 inches. It's 3.44 inches as a mini knife. And of course, these are super smooth, just like all the Reates are now. And well, they always have been, but they're just even better now. So even the Mini Horizon in hand, it gives you that little thick spot to use the knife. It's still good in hand. The Horizon C, a little bigger in hand, has that nice wide flat top, and it's long enough to have a little extra on my, I guess, large size hand, large glove, not extra large, but not medium for sure. That's why I like the Reate knives, is so many of them are large, between 3.5 to 4 inches, and they have been 3.5 to 4 inches, lots of them. And then only lately have they come out with a few under 3.5 inches. You get the carbon fiber insert or the milling handle options, and they do give you a lot of options. Once again, Reate gives you a lot of options on what you're going to choose color-wise and insert-wise, even blade-wise. You can get the Damascus steel Damascus. Even the Mini Horizon fires out as a small knife. It's not that small. Just about the perfect EDC size is the Mini Horizon. So there's a side-by-side of some Horizons. And one more thing that they did come out with lately is the Starboy. So many knives, I don't know where to put them here. Another small knife they just came out with is the Starboy. It's a little smaller than the Mini Horizon, both under 3.5 inches. A lot of people wanted a smaller Reate knife, and they've delivered. Looking at this knife online, I was unsure of it, and then when I got it in hand, it's really good. Even being smaller, you can see on my large size hand. If you had an extra large hand, it might be back here, but I can easily fit it in my hand. And it's a wide blade to where it's nice it just gives you good purchase. It feels like it would be a really good user. And people have asked, is this a sharpening notch? Is this a finger choil? What is it? And, it's both. You can choke up. Just like most finger choils, you'll be right there, but, this finger is what stops you from going forward, and you're just basically laying that finger on there. So as long as your brain is engaged, you can use it as a finger choil and choke way up. Use the tip of the knife if you wanted to. So yeah, the Starboy in hand is pretty darn nice, actually. That clip screw must be hidden inside there. But just like all Reates, perfectly centered, flies out, super smooth. And to see a couple side by side. Hopefully I've done pretty well on some of this comparison and just showing you a couple side-by-sides. The Starboy does kind of remind me of a smaller knife, something like the Delica, although, you know, compared to the Delica, the blade stock is it just feels twice as thick. More like a super leaf, really. Super thick blade stock. Yeah, it's a good slicer. It's real thin on the edge, and it's that full flat grind. Maybe that's what reminds me of the Delica, is the full flat grind. It's a little bigger than the Delica. Here's the Endura, just to show the comparison. The Endura is going to give you a lot more handle, well, and also more blade, obviously. But that's a nice little comparison there. Maybe my last comparison. Reate has really come out with some nice new, I guess, smaller knives, just under 3.5 inches. Of course, they still have their larger knives, the over 3.5, just under 4-inch blades. And that's really one of the reasons I got sucked into Reate knives in the first place, is I like the larger knife. And I won't get them all in the shot. But thanks for joining me today. You know, hopefully some of these in-hand picks or side-by-side comparisons maybe helped you decide, or even, you know, sparked a little interest. If you do have any questions, well, you could find me at the Knife Joker, theknifejoker.com. And if you like the channel, just subscribe to the channel. You know, maybe I'll answer one of your questions in the next video, or in the comments. You know, you can ask any questions you want. Thanks for joining me. Have a good night.